Hello, I'm Paul, Mrs. Talis. We're the publishers of Greenmantle magazine and our book, The Mountain and the Stream. And we've been asked to speak to you about Samhain and ancestor worship and how it affects us as animists. So that's what we're going to do.
Ancestors and animism are pretty much inseparable, because right from the dawn of humanity, really, the spirits of the land and the spirits of the dead have been very close. And sometimes they even become the same thing. They become entangled so that you can't tell the difference in loads of stories right through medieval Europe. And there's even the idea that the kings who are buried in the barrows are meant to become the guardians of the land and at the same time ancestors, so that they're one and the same thing. I do want to make sure everybody understands what ancestors are. I'm sure you all do, but I did see a comment recently, a post online from a poor woman who had a very unfortunate relationship with her family and felt she couldn't celebrate Samhain and honor her ancestors because she didn't like any of them. So ancestors can be friends who have passed on. They can be your distant ancestors that you don't know anything about, really. They can be your spiritual ancestors, elders and teachers. They can even be a special pet.
As animists, we don't really celebrate our lost ones, our deceased and our ancestors at Samhain, because we tend to celebrate them at the times of their passing or times or events that were important to us as personal level. As far as people that we don't know, our distant ancestors, we feel that we actually honour them throughout the year, through the seasons and through the land itself, and the spirits are both there, intermingled. So we don't need a specific time, although I can understand it being a great sort of event to have one day to celebrate them. But we ourselves don't do that. Because?
Well, I mean, what we do, the mythology, particularly from Ireland, is where most of the mythology actually centred around Samhain comes from. And it tends to emphasise the old idea, the ancient idea of the dangerous dead, and evil spirits and harmful spirits and all that kind of thing. And that's the thinness of the veil is all about the harmful things that can come in. And so we tend to centre more on repelling the harmful things, and this can be by having lots of festivities, by dressing up and decorating in ways to repel the spirits or to mock the spirits, and that's kind of the origin of the Halloween as we know it today, and we kind of go more that way. We both suffer from SAD at this time of year, and so we don't find it particularly helpful to think about our beloved dead, but we use it as a way of looking at how to repel those influences of the darkness that are not happy for us, and also to use the darkness to bring in what light we can, but to use the darkness in those healthy ways that paganism teaches us about, for inspiration and contemplation. Paul has also got other connections from the traditional farm he worked on in the 80s.
When I was working on the farm, Samhain was celebrated, but it was never a celebration of ancestors or the dead, although death and rebirth do come into it. It was basically a celebration of the end of the farming year. The harvest is in, the food is there, we're all preparing for a nice rest over the winter months before we start again in the spring. So what we have is a respite from the work, from the actual seasons, where we rest, a kind of a spiritual hibernation. So although there is no death, there is a sort of a symbolic death in the field. At each harvest, an ear of corn is left as a sacrifice, and so that in itself is a way of showing the death of the year. And like the tarot cards, death is not a literal sense. It's more like a change, a death of a circumstance, a shift. And that's basically what it is. a restful time going from the end of the working year to the beginning of the new year, the death and rebirth. And that is where the Samhain is really celebrated. Not celebrating the death, but celebrating the change and the new beginnings that lie ahead for us. We hope you enjoy your Halloween or Samhain. Blessed be.